Let's go live.
Hey, we're live. Welcome to another typology interview. We have Rick and Theo, and
Hello.
hey guys. Yeah, we're just gonna go over their types a little bit. So, Rick, we both of you guys are double feminine, so that's gonna put your double feminine in play, and your double masculine in sleep. Rick is the INFJ type, so he's gonna start at blast, play, and then I can't see your last one. I think it's sleep, right? If I remember.
Blast is sleep. So
Blast to sleep. So blast, play, consume.
Yep.
And then Theo's SE, So you guys are both going to FE as your second function. And you're going play, consume.
Blast, consume.
Play, blast, consume. Okay, all right. Yeah. So you guys are both sort of the same three top animals as well.
Yeah, we're almost the same in the animal.
Yeah,
group.
and consume third. So that's kind of cool. All right, so
I'm just running with his demon.
Right, exactly.
Really fast.
Yeah, extremely fast.
So tell me a little bit about how you guys have you've adjusted to your types, I guess, since I've last had you guys on the show. Yeah. Any new revelations? Anything new that we should talk about?
No.
No. All right. Cool.
Yeah. Same here. I'm pretty chill with whatever I've been typed as, and not too surprising for myself. So it works.
Yeah, I'm not exactly a hard to type case in the OP world, so it's like, I'm still the same type.
Hey Thomas. Hey Quadrupal.
Yo, Quadrupals. Hey.
Oh, that's those are people watching. Oh,
yeah, he's got the same functions too there.
That's fine.
So let's talk about first. I guess you guys are sharing FE, so let's talk about FE, how that works in both of your lives. Maybe Rick, give us a little jump start on how FE works for you.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's the thing I'm most obvious of out of the functions for me. It's just connecting with people. Honestly, it's me kind of being in tune with somebody when I'm talking to them. It's making sure I'm reading a room or a person while I'm in conversation. That's kind of how it's always started for me from whatever age I've got into this personality stuff. And I've realized that I use it as a tool to kind of control things sometimes. So reading rooms of people, being able to control meetings at work, things like that. And I usually use it to kind of go towards helping people figure out what they care about, and usually push that towards a goal that we might all have.
So that's that boss savior there that you're pushing on the tribe with your FE.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
Right. And what about watching your language, saying things in a way that people can understand, or saying things in a way that doesn't come off too abrasively? Is that something that you're concerned with?
No, not at all. No. I'm not concerned with it because I can trust that I know that I'm always going to be concerned about offending. So it has to be a lot of effort for me to try to outright offend somebody. Usually when I'm in blast mode, I'm just blathering on. I have no idea what words are coming out. I just know I'm getting towards the thing I want to talk about. And it's usually I'm reading the person while I'm talking. Like right now I see Theo kind of chuckling.
Yeah.
Right? I'm reading that and saying, that's an instant validation for me, so I can keep going, right? And then I can kind of navigate those waters as I keep going. There's no offense there. It's just, am I hitting the right marks emotionally? Is it vibing with them? Am I on the right plane of discussion here? Are we getting along? Are we vibing? Right.
So I see Theo nodding there and stuff. So what do you have to say? You're agreeing with that?
I mean, I would say something, but that covers it pretty well.
See, guys.
It's yes, I don't actively have to worry about being concerned for someone, because I feel like it really does take so much to do something. I mean, if it's accident, sure, you can accidentally offend someone.
Yeah.
But most of the time, it takes a lot of intention to be I have to say this thing, and I know it could be mean. Otherwise, the words without thinking will naturally find a way to come out softer than whatever I thought in my head.
Right. Yeah, very much the same. Yep.
Because the words that go through my head initially are never nice. They just won't ever come out the way I first thought them.
So like, I know little experiment here. I know that I can go, hey Theo, I think you're an idiot, and you'll be like, okay, whatever, jerk, and we'll know we're kidding. We know our intent. But if I
Yeah.
said, hey Benjamin, I think this is whatever you said is wrong, I might not say it that way to you. I would be like, hey, I disagree with your point. Like it's automatic. I just know that each person has certain ways of they want to hear something, so it vibes with kind of keeping the conversation going where it should, as opposed to getting hung up on like feelings. Like it's already navigating those waters, you know.
Yeah, it's so true. Like you have certain friends, you can go, hey, what's up, like jerk face, like, and just like roast them all day. And then I have people, I would never say anything close to you're an idiot.
Yeah, right.
How do you know when you've crossed the line, or how do you know how far you can go? Like you just test people to see beforehand, you kind of get used to it, or what?
So personally, when it comes to social settings, I mean, you try and watch through recent like feedback from people I trust. I'm probably not always the best at it. Like sometimes I'll make a joke and it goes too far. Like people take it a weird way, but like I didn't realize it. So like it's not perfect, but generally it's just trying to judge like how people are reacting.
Yeah, for myself, God, I know what I want to get to here, the context. I just forgot the question, so I don't know if I'm hitting it right. So basically, it's pretty much the same where like I know that crap. Can you queue up the question again, Benjamin? Sorry.
Yeah, I'm just gonna invite Tom out just to say hi because he's here chilling. So we're gonna say hi to him quick and then we'll continue.
Sure.
How's it going, Tom?
Hey, Tom.
Hello.
Hello.
So similar functions here too with Tom.
Yeah, Benjamin sent me a link. I didn't know what it was, but I just clicked it, and then suddenly I'm watching myself watch myself. I guess play first, click all links, and until suddenly live on a podcast.
And then you're like, oh wait, I have to consume now. Okay, let me read what this thing actually is.
Right.
I'll consume it later, I figure.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks for joining. Thanks for coming out. Okay, he's gone. Right. Okay, so queue up the question.
Yes.
Like, how do you know how far you can push on someone? Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, it's really, I think it's always been kind of subconscious. I think I automatically am reading body language and tonality, the way people are talking or whatever. Just the instant I'm meeting someone, I'm already kind of reading them in a way. Right. And I'm picking up on a lot of cues of just who that person is in every context that I've experienced them there. And it's just patterning in my brain. And so the second something is slightly off from that, fails through this potential of writing random stuff on your live stream. Thanks, Tom. Derailed. Yeah, so I'm picking up on like patterns of the people themselves, and it's just kind of going into my brain subconsciously, and I just kind of know it. So if somebody raises the eyebrow the wrong way and goes like this, I hit a thing. Or if they go a certain way, okay, that's not the right way to go with them. And so I'm automatically adjusting in that moment, and I don't even have to think about it.
It seems like Theo might try to push a little bit more to go too far, and it seems like you might not like even try or want to. Am I reading that right?
I wouldn't say I try. So a lot of the times in social settings, I kind of go like autopilot with social settings and then kind of just like do my thing and I'm not thinking about, which is where a lot of it comes from. And so a lot of like recent has been learning to just actually be actively more aware of like the presence I carry in social situations. Because normally what I'll do is I go based on like context. So if I meet someone at church, I have like a standard way that I act when I'm in church. If I meet someone at a bar, I have a standard way that I would be at a bar. So I go more based on the situation I'm in than the specific people around me.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, it makes a lot of sense to me. It's actually only been the last few years for me that I've had a concerted effort where I try to blend those versions of myself across the board. So from a bar to a friend group, to this other friend group, to family members, to work stuff. Like it's been a concerted effort to try to make sure I'm being the same version of me and not changing, which I guess perspective I'm bringing to the table. Instead of being a chameleon completely, I'm more or less maybe just socially gracefully being chameleon, but I'm still being more like a certain version of myself consistently. And that has allowed me to actually be more brave in trying to be offensive. But again, there has to be effort behind that. And it's not that I think I'm ever actually offensive. I think I'm still very soft and gentle with the people I'm talking to. But in my mind, it feels like it's very abrasive. And it's like, ooh, I'm going to go against it. And it tends to work out fine anyway, you know?
Do you think that has to do with you connecting to your identity, to your TI, that you're able to keep that consistent persona?
I think that's what it is. I think I'm figuring that out and building on that and testing it and going, the world doesn't fall apart if I am consistent with these parts of myself and let out these vulnerabilities that are only here or here and going, hey, here they all are.
Right.
In fact, it's actually worked out better. Go figure, if you just be yourself.
Yeah.
You know?
So I know some people might think it's like disingenuous to like put out a different persona in different situations, but it's always still you, right? It's not like like you're lying or something. You're actually being genuine. It's just, can you tell me about that?
Theo, do you want to jump in on that first?
Yeah. So the way I've always looked at it is there's certain like if you take this box and that's my personality, then I'm just moving around within that box of my personality. So it's always me. Like I'm never not going to do anything that is too left field that I feel like it's not me. But a lot of it's like some of it's really simple. Like you're around a group of people and they don't like cursing, so you just don't curse, right? And then one day people are like, hey, do you ever curse? And it's like, yes, just not around you. or like when I was in school, I had a Christian group of friends. I had the friends I worked with, and then I had friends from like a board game club and friends from a politics club. So when you're with the Christian friends, all they want to do is talk about Jesus and Disney and lighthearted things. When you're at work, they don't care about Jesus or Disney. They just want to talk about how crappy your boss is. True story. And then when you're in politics, people, they only want to talk about like government, politics, philosophy, history. And then your drinking friends, they just want to drink. And so if you bring up anything related to God or politics, you basically have a stick up your butt.
You make them drink more by bringing it up.
Right. But like you're like talking about subject and less about personality, like subject matter. But like is also the personality different in each?
The personality is more similar, but it's just a way of being like, I might really love this thing, but I won't ever talk about that thing knowing that this group's not into it.
Right.
Like I may, like for example, there's a video game called RuneScape that I play. I've never talked about it to anyone because just no one in my life wants to hear about it. Right. Could I have a conversation about it? Sure. Why would I push it?
You just weaved it into one right now.
Yeah. Boom. Or like OP, something I rarely talk about with OP because people don't like hearing about it because they're bad. So I'm more aware of it when it comes to topics that I introduce into the group.
Do you get that too, Rick, or like you used to have it, I guess, more?
I mean, well, to kind of piggyback on what Theo said, yeah, there's the clustering of like interests that different friend groups and social groups and work groups have. And I guess there's just kind of commonalities you have, and that's what you share there, right? And it is kind of awkward to be like, hey, group that I party with, let me tell you all about RuneScape. It's the best thing in the world. It's just kind of awkward, weird, and like, I would imagine for Theo, and I would imagine for myself, it's really just like, that awkwardness and weirdness is not something you really want to put up too much with because you already kind of know it's not going to pan out in a way you want it to. So why, right?
Do you feel responsible for the vibe in the tribe and like for ruining the vibe then if you did that?
I wouldn't say ruining the vibe. It's just like, why is it worth it to try and get them interested in something I know they're clearly not going to be interested in?
Yeah.
You know, like, it's like if you had a friend who hates World of Warcraft, you're not going to go and talk about how much you like World of Warcraft unless you specifically want to argue.
Right.
You want to debate the merits of World of Warcraft.
Which I don't, you know, like, not worth it. I'm hanging out with you because you want to drink and I want to drink.
Right. I think it's less about maintaining the vibe, so to speak. Tangent with that. I think a lot of FE stuff is usually talked about as keeping the harmony. And I think that's kind of symptomatic of what FE allows for, but I don't think it is FE. I think it's more like the OP term of like the spectrum of values and emotions and things like that, where if you could see like this segment of people you work with or party with or whatever, don't value that, then what the hell is the point of trying to force it there if you know it's not really their thing, it's your thing. So like you could just not be all about that when you're with that group. You know what I mean? So it's less about like keeping the vibe. That's not the priority. It's saying nobody cares about what I want to talk about. Oh, Tom.
Listen, we'll have a video chat again. I'll talk about your interests.
Yeah, so I mean, I relate to what Theo's saying basically.
Yeah, and the way I look at it, I wouldn't say it's more about, the way I've always looked at it is it's not about keeping social harmony, but rather about meeting my specific interests. I have 5 different friend groups, so that way I can express and talk about all of the interests I have.
That's the reason you have the friend groups.
Right, which is in the context where I think it should be discussed. Okay. That's why those friend groups exist. It's not to keep harmony, it's so I can express everything I want to.
All right.
Yeah, I'm selfish here. This ain't for you people. This is for me.
Right.
And yet it probably comes off as you're not selfish at all. You're just kind of bending your interest when you're with each group, and so it looks like you're not being yourself. It was just
right. It looks like you're pandering to what they want. It looks like
tomato.
Are you only interested in what the group's interested in? Yes, I am awakened. I'm an ESTP jumper specifically to answer that question.
Okay, so let's talk about, I guess, maybe your TI identity and how that sort of goes with it. So you have this feminine FE and a masculine TI. How do you see those play out? Maybe start with Rick.
Sure. Yeah, so with it being kind of a demon thing for me and like way at the bottom and all that stuff, it's something that I'm only in the recent years coming to, right, as far as the identity. But it's something that I've always kind of felt very, very strongly inside. And the only way it ever expressed itself for me that I would recognize it was that, well, thank you very much. The only way I recognized it before was like when it would explode out, like with either like anger or passion or excitement, like there'd be some really strong emotion tied to it because it is some sort of like, I can be very bendy for other people and whatever it is I'm doing out in the real world. But the second I feel like too much of me is being pushed away, it will fight back at some point. So for the longest time, it was kind of, that's the only way I could experience the TI component of my own identity. It has to like explode out and like, no, you're freaking wrong because this reason and this and that and the other thing is very aggressive. Right. And then people go, all right, whoa, where'd that come from? I think I've learned to mellow that out quite a bit, but that's how it had.
So before we jump to Theo, maybe just tell us about like what kind of things would sort of transgress your TI?
If somebody thinks they understand me in a way that I didn't understand myself, really, like, for example, I'm gay and I came out right after high school. So I came out around whatever age, 18-ish, 17, somewhere around there. And it was, the only time I ever swore at my parents, my mom specifically, was when she was like, Rick, I would love you if you, and I knew what she was going to say. We never talked about the topic before. And I just yelled at her. If I was effing gay, I would effing tell you, you're being, bitchy, basically. Whoa, where did that come from? It exploded out. It was a very insecure identity thing, right? And just, so that's like a really big example. Other than that, if people presume to understand something about like maybe my morals or values and they say it in a way it's way off, I'll be like, no, you're really wrong. It's this, it's this, it's this, it's this. Those sort of things.
Mm-hmm. Okay, what about you, Theo? How do you see your FE, TI? How do you transgress your TI?
So a lot of times in the class, FE is described as the most movable with the tribe, and then TI being like the most firm on identity. So those kind of like extremes, then it's feminine and masculine there. So if FE is like water of just constantly moving around other people, then TI just feels like a rock. And so when I get angry, I get super passive aggressive of like, you can't make me do it. I'm not going to do it. Sorry, I'll be 30 minutes late. can't help it.
Right. So this is more like violating your sense of freedom that SE desire for freedom and variety.
It really depends with the thing. Sometimes it's literal identity things. Like normally, what I notice it coming out the strongest. I mean, if someone says they're going to do one thing and they do another, that usually gets me pretty frustrated. But generally, a pretty good way to flip my mood tends to be if I feel like someone's pushing me aside without really giving me like any sort of credit or thought. So like a lot of times, like I'm 23. So if I feel like someone's older and they're dismissing me just because of my age, I usually get extremely frustrated.
I can relate to that.
Or so for example, in Colombia, you know, I'm the white guy, so I'm constantly like el gringo, just the white guy. And usually it's a lot of fun to like make jokes and I don't have a problem. But there's been a few instances where I feel like it's me as a person and then gringo, and then it goes like this, and that's when I get livid. Is when I feel like you're going from the person thing to the thing to then the person underneath.
We have a couple messages. I'm going to post them up here.
I agree very much, Rose. Yeah, I agree very much with that.
And then we have one here. You have a request for a friend there, Theo.
Are you saying I'm a mature ESTP? Thank you. First thing in my head goes, yeah, you should keep looking. I'm not the ESTP.
Okay, so sorry, Rick. You were saying Theo kind of said something you agreed with about dismissing you or dismissing your ideas, I guess.
Oh yeah, that concept. Yeah, very much like if there's something that I've worked on, a thought, an idea, something that is important to me for whatever reason, and somebody is very dismissive of that, they don't even really give it the time of day, or they just I keep trying to not swear here, sorry, and they just like poop all over it because of whatever reason, doesn't matter. And to me, it's clearly obvious they're not even trying to care. To them, it's not a thing, but to me, it's a thing, and it's so personal to me, whatever that thing is, that them just being dismissive feels like it's a complete rejection of me as a person, of who I am, and whatever thing I came up with, idea, whatever, it doesn't even matter, it could be anything. That's what I was kind of relating to, is that dismissiveness seems very disrespectful of the person for me. Right, so, and that's why I try to attune to people. Like that's what I do automatically, is I'm just kind of reading body language, and I feel like I'm trying to be there with them. And if somebody's not really doing that for me, they're not giving me the respect that I feel that I'm giving others. Right.
So do you see that yourself doing that as well? And do you, if someone does that to someone else near you, does that also trigger you?
Trigger is a word that triggers me.
Sorry.
No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I know. Because it's a word that's, everyone throws it around online and willy-nilly. So if I see someone doing that near me to someone else, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, or do you also afford people that respect to give their ideas weight and things, like give it?
Oh yeah, of course. It's like everybody's somewhere in their life journey, like no matter how much you've grown or not, and no matter how right or wrong somebody might be, they have a valid point to everything they're trying to figure out and do in life. So like, don't just crap on them and say, you're an idiot, you don't know what you're talking about, or make them feel that way and like dismiss them completely. It's disrespectful of a person trying to actually do something in life, right? So yeah, of course, I try to listen. I try to actually empathize. I try to understand where they're coming from with their logic and all that stuff.
And so would that bother you then if someone was doing it to someone else near you or something?
Yeah, probably. If it's, but I just read the room and who it is and the context makes a difference of how much I might get agitated by it. But it's if they're doing it to someone that clearly in that moment needs the support of somebody to listen to them, then yeah, I would probably, at this point in my life, I'd probably interject and go, sorry, I don't mean to be rude, but I heard what you were saying here, and I think what he's trying to say is blah 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 blah. And I find myself being a mediator a lot because of that. And often it's because people don't understand that other people value something that they don't value, and it's just translating those values for them. And so that's kind of how that would usually play out for me, I think.
You resonate with that at all, Theo?
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of where I'm currently at right now, is trying to hone in the FE to make it productively useful, sort of as a skill and rather just like a thing. But like the mediating thing, I just did this last week between some people that I know who are having this conflict of living together, and I kind of was just in the middle of it. And so a lot of it was me trying to figure out to be like, so they're saying this girl says one thing, and then the other girl's, yes, I get what you're saying, but blah, 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 me, I. And it just kept going back. And I could tell they weren't really hearing each other. And so it's kind of like, how do you interpret what the other person is saying and then interject so that then the other person hears what that person is trying to say, and then trying to let all sides healthfully let out the emotions and like deal with their problem.
Yeah.
Rick, do you notice that little nuance of SE version of coming to that problem, whereas you would come to it differently? Did you see something there?
There are nuances for sure. I can't articulate it right now, but as Theo, as you're talking about, very much the same thing as I'm talking about. You're coming at it from a very slightly different angle than I think I am. So it's interesting.
I mean, we're the same observer axis, so I imagine it should be similar, because I focus on what are they saying, what's the impression, and then I'm trying to figure out where do they want to go with this, and how do I get the other person on board with that.
Do you think you're figuring, for you, is it like you're figuring out and you have to actively work to figure out where they're going? Because I feel like that's where I'm starting. Like, oh, I know, obviously they're going here. Let me now decipher the clues that I can point out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would say I probably have a little slower approach of like, okay, what are they saying? Let me really like try and interpret that in the moment. And then after like 5-10 minutes, oh, okay, now I get exactly where this is going. I could just take the whole thing with me.
So you're deriving the meaning from the words more.
Yeah, the words, how they're saying it, like I'm watching when she says something, the other girl says something, I'm watching that back and forth.
Yeah, you actually have a lot more sensory going on than I do.
Probably. I mean, one, I'm lead SE, but I also think like I'm younger, so I don't have a lot of experience actively doing this. And so I'm still learning how to navigate those situations. But I imagine I would probably take it from a much more sensory heavy level than you do.
You could be like a Sherlock Holmes on the sensory level with that.
Oh my gosh, my dream.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Sherlock really Holmes, but for people.
But exactly. Not for
I don't care about your crime scene. I want to know the actual people that are living.
That's cool.
So Rick, when you come to that sort of situation, you come to it from a different angle. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your angle?
It's so like fluffy, intuitive, abstract. I don't know how to word it. I'm guessing that's very like sorry, my dog's distracting because he's barking in his sleep right now. I don't know if you can hear that whimper noise. Sorry. Okay. For me, it's very kind of, it's intuition. It's just like somebody's talking, and I think my mind is already going like, what are all the parallel ways they can be, going forward with this? And I'm automatically latching onto one. And if they say any clue along the way that seems off their pattern, it shifts over to a different parallel. Like it's instantaneous the way it works. Of like, okay, I already get the vibe of where you're going. Just hurry up and finish talking so we can talk about this thing. But that's inside, of course. So for me, it's more like I'm already kind of picking where I think they're going, but I'm not thinking. It's just happening, right? Like I'm intuiting where they're going based on whatever the hell's happening. And then I'm subconsciously picking up all these sensory clues. And I've had to learn over the years, especially with work and being more of a strategy person and a mediator in meetings for different like business owners and managers, to go, okay, here's the sensory clues. And I had to practice. I noticed when this was said over by this person and they were passionately talking about that, you kind of shifted in your seat. Was there something you wanted to talk about? And they go, actually, yes, I'm glad you pointed that out. Like, so for me, it's like effort to pick up the sensory, and I've already kind of assumed where they're going. And my accuracy is, I'm gonna sound like an arrogant ass, but it's pretty freaking high. Kind of knowing where they're going. My confidence has gone pretty high with it nowadays too. It's not always right. Let's say it's like 80% or something. But it's pretty damn good. But the information coming in can change that, or the pattern shifting can change that,
I would say our process of how we do it is almost exactly the same. The only difference is I think as lead SE, I have the opposite naturally, and I'm now learning the intuition of, okay, I've learned I see this, I see this, I see this. And so a lot of what I'm currently learning of is how do I take this and then lead to where it's going? And so, and for me, it takes work because like normally I want a few situations. So I'm like, well, how do I do it with one situation? So if I've seen let's say I've seen one whole conflict play out, I'll take that and I'll use that as my like intuition roadmap, knowing that I've already seen it, and start drawing lines with current sensory. Whereas it seems like Rick is just like, I've talked to them before. I clearly know where this is going.
Right.
So
we got a couple comments. Oh, sorry, go on. Keep going.
So it just seems like he needs a lot less sensory to do the exact same thing. So he's learning to pick up more sensory, and I'm learning how to do more road mapping with the conversation.
Right.
Yeah, for you, Theo, you might even be able to practice, I would assume, logic leap. Just jump right to a conclusion sooner and sooner and sooner, and practice that intuition.
Yeah.
And
you know what I mean?
updating that conclusion as Rick was doing.
Yeah.
Like that's what you were saying.
Right.
You jump to a conclusion and then you're probably wrong, but you want to just have one originally so that you can update it.
Right. So it goes two ways. If it's something that's not in the moment that I have some time to think about, I'll usually have between 2 to 4 ideas of varying strength. And so I just run with the one that I think is the most likely, and then I'll adjust based on incoming information. And if it's more like in the moment dealing with conflict, it's a lot of like, I think it's this, waiting a little bit, but then I'm going to have, like an aha moment. And I go, I fully get where this is going. Like, let's just wrap this up now.
Yeah, so that I fully get where this is going is where I'm usually starting. And I feel like I'm sounding like an arrogant person saying that, but that's the feeling I have. And then I'm going into the conversation, just letting them blab. And I just queue up a couple questions to make sure they're going to get to a point that I can go, right, that reminds me, let's talk about that. So I can kind of curate where they're going with the conversation, whatever it is, and make sure it ends up in a point that they want it to get to anyway.
Right.
I wish I
sounds so manipulative.
This sounds so great.
What was that?
This sounds so great. Like, why can't I be lead and I?
It sounds so manipulative. It sounds awful, actually.
I'm like, Joe, just
the
ability to jump in. Oh, I know what's going on. God, that sounds so relaxing to me.
But it's not, because like when you're not in the moment doing the blast play thing and just working with it, when you're like outside of it, for me, I'm obsessing over the possibilities and what sensory and reflecting.
See, I'm not obsessing over the possibilities. I kind of have an idea of where the strengths of my intuition are. So narrow them down to the 4. I'll get tired of thinking about it and go, we're just going to operate assuming this one's correct and wait for more information.
Right. That sounds great to me.
Rick, do you think that difference is because when you're outside of the situation, you're more in consume and less in blast play?
Yeah, because in blast play,
you just have time to think about it.
And sleep processing, right? And consuming and sleep processing, right? So it's the sleep processing that I think makes me obsessed. I'm just looping, and I'm obsessing over the wrong details. I don't know which one to prioritize. That's what I've been practicing, is like, get to reality, get to sensory, get to the logic quicker. What's real? That's been kind of my journey this last year with the YouTube channel and all that stuff. It's just like, what's real? Just go into like wherever I'm not comfortable, go into that and just keep practicing that shit. And usually to me, just being in reality and real sensory stuff. And it's really like fine tuning my intuition even more. So, it's been helpful to do that.
So to piggyback with like a sensory example, Essie, in therapy, I go see a counselor once every other week. And he asked me a question in one meeting that like really threw me off. And so I was thinking about it the whole week. And so I had 4 possibilities of what the reason I thought it was. 2 of the reasons came from reading a book. A couple came from, I don't even remember now, they were wrong, so who cares? But the one that I was reading a book and I was like, oh, this looks like that, but in a different context. And so I brought that up the next time I saw him, and he confirmed that I was right. And that just was like, I could peacock my demons right now.
No, that's great, right? Because the more you can like track that you're doing that, be conscious of that, the more
Right.
effective and efficient you'll be at doing that.
And that
I'm
for
doing
me is what
I'm doing
helps.
similar. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what helps strengthening my NI, coming up with guesses and then having a way to confirm or deny them. Because if I can't confirm or deny if the assumption's correct, I can't tweak myself. But if I can figure out a way to get if that guess is right or not, then I can start tweaking.
It's funny. It's literally flipped for me. For me, it's like I have to track the sensory. If I'm not tracking and paying attention to what's actually literally around me or happening or whatever. By the way, let's all notice that we're talking about these concepts and we haven't actually talked about a literal like scenario other than your thing you just mentioned, Theo, of going to
SD guy for the win.
right?
Yeah.
God. We're like in woo-woo land here.
Yeah.
I have to practice to track the sensory to know that that's why I automatically assumed this because of that pattern in the past. That's where the difference in the patterns has been. I just usually normally leap to that and screw the sensory because whatever. And I already got what I need. So I'm working on being able to be more mindful and recall detail and tracking sensory and knowing like what color shirt were they wearing is a good one, or do I remember the name when I meet them?
Feminine sensory too, like that's a
feminine.
I don't care where it is in your stack. Feminine sensory is a demon.
Yeah, it's a demon. Eh?
I don't care where it is. It's just a demon.
I'm gonna bring up some comments because we got some backlog here, so we're gonna just bring them up quick.
You're chill. Oh, okay, that's her. That's her name. Okay.
I like
ISFJ. What does that make her? That's introverted. SI lead, but then she's got extroverted feeling.
Yeah, so she's saying what we're doing with the mediating is all FE all the way. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
totally.
And then we got something here.
Oh, thank you. What did I say? I wasn't tracking it. Now I have to go watch this video.
That's what's his name? Fred 2.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see what else we have here. Really enjoying this interview. The dynamic and information coming out is very nice. Best live stream I've seen in a long time. Thanks, guys. Thanks, dude. Creating conversation to get some to the point they need to go sounds very monk-like. LOL, not manipulative. Your intention is helpful.
Thank you.
We got Thomas still. Interesting how this stack works as double observer. I'm kind of split between these two, going back and forth between obsessing over guesses and prioritizing them based on sensory. Yep.
Sounds fair.
Yeah.
I'm a second Rick here. Very few concrete details, examples. Interesting. Yeah.
Everyone's at Ricking. Like, you're the popular one here.
Are you tracking that?
I'll let you blast a bit, Theo.
Why? You got someone else that wanted to be your friend. You said you were mature. Come on.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, come on now.
I've gotten all the validation I need for this interview.
Right. Okay. So we were talking about like specifically the SE and the NI when we're mediating. Maybe we talk about Theo, since you're feeling left out a little bit. Let's talk about the SE in cases where you're not mediating. What kind of use is it? Do you feel obligated to?
Like I said, I really feel like feminine SE is just a demon. You know, like what color did someone's shirt wear? I don't know what color you were. I don't even remember your name. Like I don't know what color you're wearing. See, it's weird because I don't understand how I track sensory more than someone else, but I know I rely on it more. So like someone will say, hey, I saw this thing, like patterns of people or like saw someone doing something. And I go, I don't know if that's correct. Like I understand the pattern you're saying, but the first thought is, I wonder what you saw to make you think that. I've noticed if I assume the person's lead intuition, there's a strong correlation of me distrusting the pattern they've given me. Which is like, no, I mean, your pattern skills are great, but it's constant. It's not the pattern I doubt. It's where you got the pattern that I doubt. And so that's always interesting when I go, yeah, where did you get that from? You might be right, but where did you get that from?
I do the same thing actually.
Really?
With intuition first, I do that to other people and go, so you said this is the pattern or whatever. Where does that come from? And they go, oh, like maybe you should figure that out. Like,
yeah,
it's more
or if
me
someone's
teasing
like,
myself.
hey, I
constantly.
noticed this thing, and I go, I haven't noticed that. I'm gonna have to pay attention to see if like that's real or not.
Right.
And so it's like I have to confirm the sensory for myself before I can rely on what the other person's saying.
It sounds what Rick was doing though was putting the responsibility of the sensory on someone else. Like, give me the sensory.
Go figure.
For that, that sort of thing, like not being and I'm just wondering if you do the same thing. Maybe put the intuition, the responsibility of the intuition on someone else, on figuring out the meaning or giving the meaning.
But I actually do the exact. Oh, hey, the printers are still broken. Stop asking. They're never getting fixed until I buy the printer. Although today, this printer is possessed. Sorry, this is for her. This printer's possessed. We're in the office and it just lights up and starts making noise for like 20 seconds and then dies again. So I don't know. We have a possessed printer in the office. But back to the question of handling the sensory and the intuition. Originally, before I got my type, there was a short period where I thought I was lead intuition because I do make people give me the sensory. Because I don't trust their patterns. My assumption is if I have the sensory, I will naturally come to the same conclusion you did in the intuition world. So I want to confirm the sensory and the patterns will work themselves out. But I wonder if that maybe is more because we both have feminine sensory and not the demon versus the savior.
Do you still find that you have the responsibility to do you want to be the one to get that meaning, or do you ask other people to put it together? What does this sensory mean for you? Like sometimes if they give you all the sensory, do you feel like you want them to put it together for you as well?
No, just give me the sensory. Do not explain what you think about it. Like I don't need that. That's just gonna muddle it with whatever thoughts you have going on in your head that I don't care about.
And do you feel like sometimes you don't want to put the intuition and the pattern together? You just want to keep it as a sensory?
The problem is like NI as a fourth function, like N is just so useful. I feel like in order to function, you have to be able to make assumptions and patterns and guesses. It really is a demon for me. Like sometimes it's extremely difficult depending on the thing. And so like if it's only after I know I'm really struggling to figure this thing out, I'll go back to the play. But I feel like because it's masculine and it's attached to that masculine sleep with the TI, I really try to keep like the T and the N to myself. Like I only share them once I'm really like, no, I can't figure this out.
You look deep in thought there, Rick.
Yeah, there's a few things I'm waiting for my brain to go aha on something. There's a few things Theo said that I'm like, that's not how it works for me. But I'm getting what he's saying logically. So I'm trying to stay with him as opposed to going into my mind on what the hell I think.
How does it work differently for you than, or we've already said it?
We probably already said it. I would just be repeating the same thing. But I think it just sounds like, Theo, you have a mistrust in the intuition and you don't want anyone else to muddle your patterning because you're working so hard at it for yourself. And if somebody's telling you their thoughts on the patterns over time, you're going to be like, no. Just give me the details. I'll figure that shit out myself. For me, it's like, tell me what you think the pattern is. And now it's going to be in my brain forever. And I'm going to see the pattern or not. And I'm going to see the nuance and the difference.
Yeah.
Because I think for me, I can try to see I can take the concept very easily. And then for me, it's like, where's the sensory coming from? And that's my puzzle, and then I'm finding my versions of sensory or their versions that they explain to me and seeing the context then,
Yeah, mine is like, if you tell me the pattern, then that's influencing whatever I'm thinking about. And I would rather just that not influence what I'm thinking unless I know I can trust the source.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Okay. So we did the SE a little bit. Let's talk about the NI a bit with Rick. Just tell us a little bit how it plays out when you're not mediating.
It's just, I don't know. Somebody said it on one of the Facebook groups recently, like a fish isn't aware of the water it swims in or something like that, right? So that's kind of how it seems to me, the NI bit. Like I can look back, reflect, and think of how the patterns have worked for me, but it's just so automatic for me. Like just any experience I have, any interaction I have, it doesn't matter. There's automatic patterning happening in my mind of how things work, or people specifically work. And it creates this idea of like how things regularly are, like the box we talk about, right? IJ box. And it's very easy for me to see if something hits the boundary of that box and goes up, ding, ding, something's against the pattern. What's up? Pay attention, sensory, got to take it in now and like figure out the new pattern. It's so automated and so instantaneous. It's hard for me to really elaborate more unless you give me very specific questions or whatever.
Okay. Well, we're going to wrap it up at some point, but let's talk maybe about the animals a little bit. Tell us about how your play and sleep sort of work, because we got the double activated play on both of you, and then the sleep. So, like, when do you go into sleep? Why is it your final animal? Like, is it like your last stop? Is it like the thing that you want to get to, or is it something you're avoiding?
I'll jump in. So when I was first learning about Myers-Briggs way back when, I did have a hint that maybe my functions would be different orders until I took some official lead test, and they were like, it would be INFJ thing. I was like, oh, interesting. Let me see how this works out. It worked. And then when I figured out OP, and they were talking about sleep and the order of the animals with these different types of INFJs, I really, really wanted to be sleep first for some reason. Clearly I'm not, because I'm running around like an idiot all the time, and I'm always just trying to interact with people to get more information so I can then go process it later. But it's always processing later. It's always crashing later. It's always getting sick later. There's no time for that now, right? I don't remember the question, but that's kind of where it went.
Right. Theo, do you want to jump in on that? Like your play over sleep?
Yeah. So I've sort of just been working at developing my sleep animal a little bit. Doesn't go very well. It is definitely last for a reason. And so play blast together. I'm super extroverted. I hate it. Because it has these like, there's a lot of swings of like hyper extroverted, hyper introverted, just because I've worn myself out. So it's constant up and down with me. But play, a lot of it is verbal processing, thinking out loud with someone. So if I have a problem, I would rather just go talk it out with someone. Not necessarily because they will tell me anything useful, just because I know that through them providing any verbal pingback, it's going to get the gears moving faster in my head and let me sift through my own thoughts. There are really only very few people where I will go to them knowing they will provide valuable input to what I'm currently thinking about. And that's like supercharged verbal processing of talking. They give some feedback, new information. Then I have like 10 new thoughts I'm trying to process in the moment. And so like play energy is how I can think at like lightning speed. If I'm thinking at lightning speed, it's only through play energy of that constant back and forth with another person. And then blast, I can explain anything. I don't even have to understand it. I heard that dude talk about the subject, so I'm just gonna go repeat what that dude said over there and be like, what do you guys think? It almost sounds like
I liked your wording there, actually, when you said I can explain everything, but it's up to you guys to understand it. It's that's an interesting way of putting it, from putting the understanding on the other person. Yeah.
And so then consume, it really kind of is the hobby animal. Like I consume OP, I consume stuff for video games, I read books, but like it happens. Consume is the only animal that like I don't try and improve. Like the world doesn't kick me in the butt for having consumed third. I don't kick myself in the butt for having consumed third. So I'm like, good enough.
Can I jump in there a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, fine. So if it's sleep last, dealing with like the processing and the internal world and all that stuff, right? If you're trying to work on that, this is my experience, by the way. I'm blasting now on my experience for you because that's how I do it. So if you're trying to work on your sleep stuff, you're gonna have to filter down your consume and what you focus on, right? Because your play blast is always gonna happen. You're gonna trust that you're gonna always be the talkative person who's gonna be interacting with people to get more information, to have more thoughts, and more, teach, whatever. You gotta trust that's always gonna be there. And the way you're gonna probably work on your sleep is by focusing down on the consume and what things and interests and hobbies and all that stuff that you have in your life, so that you can be able to process deeper through your sleep, and then have much more rewarding play blast and consume experiences as well. It's kind of a nice full circle loopy doop. So that's kind of been my experience. So when you said that just now, it's like the world doesn't punish me for it. It does. Maybe you should punish yourself for it a little bit, because it's gonna keep you unfocused and not make growth where you need it to be in your life when you want it.
The way I've noticed it, the consume helps the sleep, and then the sleep helps the play and the blast. Well, so the consume helps sleep the most, and then the thing that helps the play the most is the sleep energy, and then blast needs both the consume and the sleep to really do its job. Because if I've had time to really think about and process something, I can do it, but then I'll notice the cogs start going a lot slower. But if I give myself the time to internally process, I have so much more useful information to go and play with that it supercharges the play session to then go back and feed the sleep session. So they work really well together. And then consume really helps the sleep and the blast, because it's giving me things to then think about. I would say consume helps my NI the most. If anything helps my NI, it's straight consume and reading books. That helps probably the most.
Yeah, I guess the only thing I was saying, I agree completely, by the way. The only thing I was saying about that is the idea of focusing down on, and of course I'm going to say that, right? But focusing down on something, what you consume should help my understanding, should help your sleep be able to process even deeper if you need to on anything in your life, so that you can improve the rest of the parts of yourself.
Really cool. Let's just answer some questions before we sign off. We got our comments. Whose patterns are more trustworthy, Savior NI or Demon NI?
Sounds like a trick question to me. I don't know.
That to me depends on the person.
Yeah.
Like, if I give you a pattern that I say out loud, I've really thought about it. I would say take it with a grain of thought, but no, I've really thought about it. There are other Demon NI people that I would never trust a single pattern they give me.
So we have an answer here, but I actually from my experience kind of disagree. So the Awakened INFJ says Savior NI, but my experience is the SE is going to work on that pattern so much longer, and once he gets that pattern down, it's going to be like way more on point. So I think you can trust it more. Where, not to bash the NIs, but like
we're all preaching our saviors. This is great,
right? But I think like when an elite NI goes and gets like a little bit of sensory and they jump to a pattern, and then they just want to move on. They don't want to keep doing that sensory once they have enough, and so maybe it doesn't get as fine-tuned as it could, from my experience.
I think you actually make a very good point about the kind of having accuracy and being able to kind of repeat things, right? You have to get to the sensory and the thinking, there to really refine and make it solid, and be able to get others to repeat as well. But the concept, it's easy for some people to kind of just jump willy-nilly to various guesses, and this is where Demon and I would probably come in. And it might go all in on the wrong one with really the wrong sensory, right? So like you need a balance. You really do need the balance.
Right.
So I think you need all the above, and you have to be cognizant of where you're strong and where you're weak. So like I wouldn't say one's more trustworthy or not, because it's really dependent on the other side. Crap data in, crap concept out, crap concept to start with, crap sensory rationalization. Look at somebody else, Demon NI, saying, "Oh, everybody thinks I'm a poop head because of these reasons." Like, no, you're not a poop head, because clearly you have a human head, not poop head, and your reasons are wrong. So you just rationalized crap. You have lots of sensory, but you rationalized it to a crap concept, and you can reverse it. Same thing with the sensory. I could just think you were wearing a blue shirt, but you're actually wearing a green shirt, and then I went on some concept about that, right? So it's really about the balance has to be there,
Yeah.
So then it seems like the person with the best patterns is the one that uses both their functions. So double deciders, there you go. They're the best. No, double observers. They're the best ones. To answer your question, it's just all the double deciders are better than a single observers. No, the double observers are better than the single of that language.
So Theo, because you were saying that you weren't getting a lot of validation, I think Rose came in with a little Theo, so articulate. I appreciate the SE with its clarity. Thoughts very much appreciated. Comparing, contrasting both you and Rick is insightful. Understanding and I more now.
Ah.
So you got some.
Love you.
I was wondering, just to piggyback a little bit about what Rick said. About first coming up with the concept and then going out to find the SE. Do you get like a lot of confirmation bias from that, like sort of shooting the arrow and then drawing the target around where you hit?
I mean, I'm sure, yeah, that's going to happen. But I think everybody does confirmation bias one way or the other, depending on which way you're using the function stack.
Right.
Right. So like, yes, I certainly can shoot the arrow in the wrong direction and be off and not hit the mark. But like, it's probably like that I'm hitting it at least in this general, like, where's the camera? In this general area, and maybe it needs to be here exactly. But, you know, somebody with the daemon stack might be over here of NI, but they might equally just go, you know what? I'm right, because, you know, it's luck, it's chance, it's growth, it's not expertise, it's wisdom and insight, you know? So I think it's dependent on the person. I'm going to muddle this out until it means no one's right or wrong. So really poke at it. That's where I'm going to go.
Let's just skip the sensory and just get to the concept I want to do.
That's just letting you know that's where it's going to end up.
Right. Okay, cool. All right. So let's, someone asked if Theo has a YouTube channel too, but Rick has one. So we'll put that in the description. Theo, do you have one too?
I don't. God, no. I can never.
So Rick has a cool YouTube channel where you do other stuff that's not only MBTI. You do personal growth and stuff with your, I guess, nieces. Is that what it was?
Oh, yeah. I got a few different things. Yeah. So I could put that link somewhere. I actually don't know it right now.
No, I'll put it in the description when it's done. Yeah.
Cool.
So you want to talk us a little bit before we sign off?
Yeah. About that, or?
Yeah, about your YouTube channel.
Yeah, so I have the personal growth side, which is, I think most people that were chatting know that one. And then the other one is with like my nieces and nephew and my dog, and we just do silly things on there and have fun. It's really more for them to learn how to do technical skills, and I'm training them on editing and video editing and music production and all that stuff. But we have fun too, so it's good. So yeah, we'll share that.
Cool. And I was wondering, were you guys able to like see each other's functions, sort of thing, like? Sort of triangulate and confirm that you guys, in a way.
Yeah, it's interesting how similar the language that you use to describe the things you do actually comes out to be the same.
Yeah.
Like, does it feel like he's under the hood, like he sees what's happening under the hood, sort of thing?
He kind of he gets it. I don't know.
Right.
Like he talks and I go, yes, that is actually how it works. Why does everyone not do this?
And meanwhile, Theo, as you're talking about stuff, I'm going, yeah, that is it, isn't it? Huh, that is the detail of it. Wow, that is the process of that. Huh, you know? So yeah, I think we're we're like this, and we're both agreeing on this, and we're going, ooh, you have this part, ooh, you have this part.
Right, you know? But I really liked the NI part versus like the SE of just comparing those differences of like, what does it mean to start with the NI, then go to the SE, and then the other way. That was the fun.
I didn't realize that until we were talking about it. So that actually is helpful for me too as well. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome, guys. Bye YouTube, and have a good one.
Bye, friends.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.